Honorable colleagues, let me now draw your attention to what has been captured as the resolution of our retreat. We, members of the caucus of the National Resistance Movement and Allied Friendly Independents in the 11th Parliament of Uganda, having assembled in a retreat at the National Leadership Institute, Kyankwanzi, from 27th May to 4th today, June 2023, at the invitation of the leader of our revolution, His Excellency the President and National Chairperson of NRM, General Gov't Museveni, recalling the great and glorious history of protracted struggle of the people of Uganda under the leadership of the movement over the last 60 years, committed to fulfilling the movement historical mission of transforming Uganda from traditional society to modernity. Having over the last 9 days engaged in robust, focused and critical interface around the thematic focus of the role of national and other leaders in exponentially increasing household incomes and wealth creation. Deeply mindful of our immense responsibilities and duties to the movement and to the people of Uganda, do hereby resolve as follows. 1, to deeply appreciate the continuous presence and overall guidance of the leader of our revolution, His Excellency General Gov't Museveni, President and National Chairperson of NRM, throughout the retreat. To most warmly appreciate His Excellency the President for the keynote address to the retreat and note his emphasis on the vital need for clarity regarding the elements of ideology, strategy, policy, and administrative cohesion. To most warmly appreciate His Excellency the President for his presentation on the role of leaders in increasing incomes at household level and wealth creation. To most warmly thank all the facilitators we have interfaced with in the retreat and whose papers are appended to these resolutions. To most warmly salute Mama, the First Lady and the Minister of Education and Sports, Her Excellency the Vice President, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Secretary General, among other senior movement and state leaders who have attended the retreat to its logical conclusion. To most warmly salute the Office of the Government Chief Whip and Chairperson of the NRM Parliamentary Caucus, the Director, National Leadership Institute, and the combined team which has operationally managed the administration of this retreat. To firmly commit to consolidating the unity of all members of the movement around its guiding ideological principles of patriotism, Pan-Africanism, social-economic transformation, democracy, and around the leader of our revolution and general of the African resistance, Gov't Museveni. To clearly recognize that the political leaders, including the members of parliament, are the ultimate and functional leaders of the process of increasing household incomes and wealth creation, and therefore bear a very heavy responsibility under the circumstances. To clearly recognize that increasing household incomes and wealth creation is the only point, although a critical one, in a historical process of the socio-economic transformation of our country from traditional society to modernity. To clearly recognize that education for all is the other anchor alongside increasing household incomes for socio-economic transformation. That the caucus shall maintain a special focus on and maximally support value addition on the production, processing of commodities, including coffee, sugar, etc. That urgent / emergency meetings of the caucus shall be convened whenever there are incidences of lack of generalized clarity for purposes of deepening cohesion on vital economic and other issues. That the NRM Parliamentary Caucus shall always be convened to consider and build internal consensus on the national budgetary priorities and estimates of revenue and expenditure of government. That members of the caucus should be fully alive to the entire policy framework of the NRM government. That members of the caucus should not ordinarily bring to Parliament or support a private member's bill. Whenever this is necessary, it should be done through the NRM Parliamentary Caucus. That the members should always work through the caucus. Once decisions are made, they should be supported. That members of the NRM Parliamentary Caucus should be disciplined and know when and where to disagree. That members of the NRM Parliamentary Caucus should be able to do sufficient research to support government work and also to render support to the executive. That the NRM Parliamentary Caucus recommends to the NRM Central Executive Committee to consider approving amendments to the NRM Parliamentary Caucus Rules of Procedure and any other regulations to provide for parliamentary commissioners on the NRM ticket to be elected by the NRM Parliamentary Caucus with effect from December 2023, that is the third session of the 11th Parliament. That members warmly welcome the exhaustive report and related thorough clarifications delivered by the Right Honorable Prime Minister through our presentation. That members eagerly await the next retreat or another appropriate arrangement to receive detailed reports from all the sectors. That members warmly welcome the exhaustive report and related thorough clarifications delivered by the Minister for the Presidency in our presentation. And members eagerly await the next retreat for us to take appropriate arrangement to receive detailed reports from all sectors. That members warmly welcome the presentation delivered by the Right Honorable Justin Lumumba and the learned Attorney General. That members warmly appreciate the clarifications on the roles of individuals, offices, and institutional mandate, the relationship between the caucus on the one hand, the leadership of the movement, and the executive on the other hand. That members warmly appreciate the clarifications on the political and legal framework of the totality of the legislative process. That members welcome the presentation delivered by the PS and Secretary to Treasury and the Deputy ED of the National Planning Authority. That members warmly welcome the critical foundational and background information shared by the two entities. Members warmly welcome the presentation and clarifications on the Myoga delivered by the Minister of State for Microfinance in the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Members note the clarification and emphasis by His Excellency the President on the following: that recoveries under the Myoga program shall be due after 12 months, that payments should be effected up to 24 months. Members warmly welcome the presentation and clarity on the Paris Development Model delivered by the National Coordinator of the Paris Development Model at the Ministry of Local Government. Members note the clarification and emphasis by His Excellency the President on the following under PDM: that recoveries under PDM shall be due after 24 months, that payments shall be effected up to 36 months. Members note that PDM is the NRM government flagship program aimed at bringing all households and other people into the monetary economy through strategic interventions at the parish. Members of the caucus commit to mobilizing the party structures and members to be actively involved in participating, popularizing, and monitoring Emyoga, PDM, and other socioeconomic programs of government. Members warmly appreciate the presentation and clarity on the challenges of revenue collection delivered by the Commissioner General of Uganda Revenue Authority. Members commit to continue with constructive engagement with the URA leadership on the need for revenue generation to facilitate the budget through the tax bills passed by Parliament and assented to by the President. Members warmly welcome the presentation on the anti-corruption struggle delivered by the head of State House Anti-Corruption Unit and supported by internal security organization. Members commit to relentlessly fight corruption wherever it may manifest itself and to maximally support all institutions involved in the fight against corruption. Members of the caucus warmly appreciate the presentation and clarity on the subject of leadership and critical thinking, presentation and clarity on the subject of patriotism building, presentation and clarity on the subject of the changing role of the media, presentation and clarity on the subject of mobilization, presentation and clarity on the subject of the party discipline and cohesion delivered by the Secretary General of NRM. Members commit to support the call of the Secretary General for strengthened discipline in all activities of the NRM and across all its structures. Members of the caucus warmly appreciate the presentation and clarity on the subject of the NRM as a liberation movement. Members of the caucus, finally, warmly welcome His Excellency the President's directive to the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to expedite the process of funding NUSAF 4 by the World Bank, focused on livelihood improvement of the 39 poor households. Your Excellency Mama, Right Honorable Secretary General, Right Honorable Prime Minister, all of you members of the caucus, I beg to move and submit for God and my country.
Allow me to remind our colleagues that the party secretariat will always be committed to serve the party diligently without bias or favor or any contradictions. The secretariat will be open for consultations. Like I mentioned yesterday, we are moving to each and every constituency of this country. We shall be interacting with the structures of the party and guiding you on how you can improve on your relationship with the people on the ground.
During this retreat, the honorable colleagues and I have benefited immensely from your training on how socio-economic transformation through wealth creation and free education for all stands at the pinnacle of pulling the 39% of our Ugandans out of poverty. As your Prime Minister, and lead of government business, it is my duty with the honorable colleague of NRM caucus to support your vision through passing the appropriate policies and legislation that will ensure accomplishment of the mission of our government.